This is the Podcast Lab. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.
Deep dive listeners, today we're really getting into something important, diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, a big topic.
It is. We're going to go deeper than the usual stuff you hear, though, going past the buzzwords and all that.
Right.
So to do that, we've got a few things to work with. A transcript from this chief diversity officer at eBay,
Okay.
a script outline someone put together, and some research papers, all about diversity, of course.
Sounds like a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is. Let's get started with this script outline. It says here that diversity is all about representation.
Okay, makes sense.
Inclusion is belonging. Seems simple, but...
What's that really mean?
Right.
Like in actual life?
Yeah, exactly. That's where this YouTube talk comes in.
Oh.
The speaker, they describe diversity as, quote, a wide variety of baggage.
Wow.
Right. I thought that was I don't know, it really stuck with me.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's like diversity isn't just checking boxes.
It's about who people are.
Exactly. Their experiences, everything they bring to the table.
And they told these stories, these anecdotes that really brought it home, like not getting picked for kickball as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's been there.
Or being left out of weddings, feeling like your age means people just shut you down.
Stuff that makes you feel...
Small.
Yeah, small, insecure.
Or even scared, like you don't belong.
And that's what gets me. Imagine feeling that way at work every day.
It'd kill your motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Forget about being creative or coming up with new ideas. You'd just be trying to survive.
That's where I think that dance party analogy really clicks. You know, the one from the YouTube talk?
Oh, right. Remind me.
Diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion, that's being asked to dance.
I like that. Just showing up isn't enough.
Nope. You got to feel like you're part of it.
Like you can contribute. Your voice matters. You're actually in the dance.
Not just watching from the sidelines.
So how does this all work in business then? I mean, the research you shared makes a strong case for diversity, more creativity, more productivity.
Solving problems better, even higher profits.
But how does that actually happen? What's the link?
Well, one of the big ideas is cognitive diversity.
Cognitive diversity, okay.
Different backgrounds, different experiences. It means people think differently.
And that leads to?
A deeper understanding of whatever problem you're facing. More ways to solve it. Innovation, basically. It's not just about filling quotas. It's about actually using those different perspectives to get better results.
Right. It's about making the most of everyone's strengths.
One study, I think it was one of the ones you sent, found that companies with the most racial and ethnic diversity, they were 35% more likely to have returns above their industry average.
Whoa, 35%. That's huge.
Makes you wonder why every company isn't all over this diversity and inclusion thing, right?
But it's not always easy. Building a truly inclusive culture, that takes work. That's where that eBay speaker's three-pronged approach comes in. They focus on the workforce, the workplace, and the marketplace. All got to be diverse and inclusive.
Can you break that down a bit? What does that look like in a company?
Sure. So workforce diversity, that's about recruiting a diverse group of employees and making sure they stay. But it goes deeper than just numbers.
Oh, okay.
It's about a culture where everyone feels like they're welcome, they're respected.
Gotcha. What about the workplace then?
That's the environment itself. Got to be inclusive, got to let everyone thrive, use their talents.
Okay. And marketplace, that's the trickiest one for me to wrap my head around.
Think about a company like eBay. They're global, right? So they've got to understand what all these different communities around the world need and want.
I see.
Like maybe they offer different products in different places to fit people's culture, or translate their website into tons of languages.
Right, makes sense. Even thinking about religious holidays when they do marketing. So it's not just diversity inside the company, it's making sure that diversity is reflected outward too.
You got it. It's recognizing that diversity, it's a strength everywhere.
So eBay has this whole framework, seems pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, they've put a lot of thought into it.
But what about us? You know, what can one person listening to this do to actually make things better?
That's the big question, right? And this YouTube speaker, they had some really good advice. They said, like, the big things are starting conversations.
Okay.
Making inclusion inclusive.
I like that.
Finding that business case, you know, and being vulnerable.
That one, vulnerability, it's tough.
It is, but it's so important.
I'm really stuck on that making inclusive thing. What does that even mean?
So it's like inclusion isn't just about these specific groups that have been, you know, underrepresented.
Right.
It's got to be for everyone.
Oh, I see.
Sometimes you try to help one group
Yeah.
and you end up leaving other people out without meaning to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, say a company's got this women's initiative,
Right.
but men feel like they can't be part of it or they're not welcome.
Exactly.
That doesn't really help anyone, does it?
Nope. It backfires. Inclusion has got to be for everybody.
We all have a part to play, right?
That's it. Everyone's got to feel valued, respected for who they are.
That vulnerability thing the YouTube speaker talked about, that really hit home for me. These topics, diversity and inclusion, they can be hard to talk about.
Yeah, they can be uncomfortable.
But you gotta make a space where people feel safe to share.
You have to. Their experiences, their thoughts.
If you're not willing to be a little vulnerable yourself.
People can tell. And they won't open up.
I liked this tip they gave. If you don't know how to, address someone.
Oh, yeah, the language, pronouns and stuff.
Just ask.
So much better than avoiding the whole conversation.
Way better. Shows you're trying, you're willing to learn.
And that's key, right?
Yeah.
Being willing to learn and grow.
Huge for building a truly inclusive environment, I think.
Totally agree. So we talked about that human side of things, making people feel welcome.
Right.
But what about convincing the companies? How do we get them to see that diversity and inclusion?
It's not just a nice to have.
Right. It's not just some feel-good thing.
It's essential, for their bottom line.
That's where the research you sent comes in.
Oh, yeah, all the studies.
They prove it. Diverse and inclusive companies. They just perform better.
The eBay speaker, they were saying, you got to find the business case that works for your own company.
I like that approach, yeah. Look at your own situation.
See how diversity and inclusion can actually make things better, get better results.
Like one study I saw, companies with more diverse management teams.
More diverse, meaning?
Different genders, races, backgrounds, all of it.
Gotcha.
They had 19% higher revenues.
Wow. Just from having a more diverse leadership.
That's what the study found. All thanks to innovation.
That's a big number. It's not just about, being good anymore.
Yep.
It's good business.
And especially now, the world's changing so fast. Different customers everywhere, different markets.
Gotta keep up.
Diversity and inclusion. It's not just an option anymore.
This deep dive, it's been eye-opening. We've gone over the definitions.
We've talked about what it feels like to be excluded.
And all the research backing this up.
Even got some practical tips on what to do about it.
But I'm wondering, how do we make sure this isn't just a one-time thing?
How do we keep this going?
How do we actually change things for good?
That is the million-dollar question. And I think it boils down to a few key things, honestly. It's got to become part of everything we do.
Part of the culture.
Exactly. In our companies, in our lives, just how we do things.
It can't be a one-time training or something.
Nope. It's got to be continuous.
So where do we even start? What can people actually do with all this?
Education, I think, is number one.
Learn more about it all.
Yeah. Really get a deeper understanding of what diversity and inclusion mean, how they work. Got to challenge your own biases, too.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It is, but we all have them. And being open to learning from other people's experiences.
Listening to different perspectives.
That's huge. And there's so much out there to help us learn.
Like what?
Books, articles. I bet there's tons of podcasts on this stuff.
Probably.
Even just talking to people in your community, people different from you.
Getting out of your comfort zone a little.
Exactly. And that ties into the next thing. Having these open, honest conversations.
Oh, yeah. More talking.
We got to make spaces where people feel safe to share, what they think, how they feel.
Even if it's different from what we think.
Especially then. It's about really listening, trying to understand.
Not judging.
And being willing to have our own minds change,
I like that. Be open to being wrong.
Sometimes, yeah.
Makes me think of what that eBay person said.
Which part?
Make inclusion inclusive. It's not just about focusing on certain groups. Everyone's got to feel like they belong.
You got it. And that goes hand in hand with being an ally.
An ally?
Yeah, for each other. We can all do that.
How so?
Speaking of, when you see bias or discrimination, no matter who it's against.
Okay.
Supporting policies that promote inclusion at work, in your community.
And using your platform to help people who aren't always heard.
Exactly. Giving them a voice. It's not enough to just not be racist or sexist ourselves.
Yeah, right. You got to actually be anti-racist,
anti-sexist.
Big or small, it all makes a difference.
It all adds up. This stuff doesn't change overnight, though.
It's a process.
It takes work. It takes time. And yeah, it can be uncomfortable sometimes.
Definitely.
But it's worth it. When everyone feels included, that's when things really start to change.
Companies get better results. Communities are stronger.
People are happier.
This deep dive, wow, we've come a long way. starting with like what these words even mean.
Diversity, inclusion, all that.
Then hearing about those real experiences.
Makes it real, And
all the research, the data, it's clear the stuff matters.
It does. More and more every day.
We even got some advice on how to, what to do about it.
Put it into practice.
Yeah, exactly. It's been great exploring all this with you.
You too. And remember, everyone listening.
Every single one of you.
You have a role to play. We all do.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a question to think about. What are you going to do to make things more inclusive?
Doesn't have to be some big, huge thing.
Maybe it's starting a conversation with someone.
Or saying something when you hear a biased joke.
Educating yourself more on these topics.
Every action, big or small, it pushes us forward.
Makes the world a little bit better, a little bit more inclusive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing for change.